folks, ladies and gentle cars, my name is Farkle8000, and welcome back to the Diecast Competition Series. Today we begin Race 3 of the season, and arguably the most important. It's the March competition. Now, I say arguably the most important. Why? Well, I alluded to it at the end of the last competition, but March has trends, and the most important trends at that. The 2018 winner of March was 3, and she is your 2018 champion. The 2019 March winner was Shooter, and he's your 2019 champion. 2021 March winner, Blitz. 2021 champion, Blitz. 2022 and 2024 winner, Demon. 2022 and 2024 champion, Demon. And 2023 winner, Symbol. 2023 champion, Symbol. Now, the only year you'll notice I didn't mention was 2020. And the reason is because Howler didn't win the championship. But he did finish second to the guy who didn't compete. The one outlier is an outlier because the 2020 champion didn't compete in the March competition, and the one who did finished second. Meaning, whoever wins the March competition will more than likely be your champion. But there's still 12 competitions left after this one, so it's not a guarantee. Just highly likely. So without further ado, let's get the first 31 races of round 1 underway. From right to left, we have Lantern, Engine, Cage, and Pullback in race 1. It's time to get the March competition underway. And it looks like Lantern way in the lead, wobbling through the transition. Cage pulls ahead of him. He's now ahead of Lantern. Pullback, closing, but Cage will be able to come across the line in first. Engine will DNF before reaching the finish line, and Lantern, the early leader of this race, will DNF in fourth. Looked like Lantern was going to finally be able to finish, but unfortunately the transition and his speed strikes again. Cage drives on to the next round. Bird, Jeep, 5, and Ladder race next. It's a relatively even start. Jeep may be pulling ahead a little bit. He wobbles now, so does Bird. And 5 pulls ahead of Jeep and drives to the win. Jeep will come home in second. Bird will be unable to finish, and so Ladder comes home in third. And it looks like Bird is actually off the track. Don't know when that happened, but that probably is the reason she will not finish. 5 drives on to the next round. Chevelle, Minecart, Fire and Sunshine race next. It's a very even start. Maybe Chevelle a little bit ahead, bouncing and wobbling through the transition. Everyone's still on track. They're 4 wide. Chevelle pulls ahead of Sunshine and will grab the victory. Our first clean race with no DNFs of this competition, and Chevelle comes out on top. Fins, Orange Liner, Metrotech, and Dylan race next. I'm a little worried about Dylan in lane number 4 in this one. He's had some issues throughout the season so far, and all of his issues actually started in the first competition when he was in lane 1. So we'll just have to wait and see how he's able to finish this one, if he can. It's a very even start. Finn's a little ahead, but here, whoa, a big bounce for Fins. Now he's on his side and on his roof. Orange Liner ahead of Metrotech will grab the victory. Dylan will inch across the line as he has the whole season. And Fins, who is beginning to lose the lead to Orange Liner before he wrecked, DNFs halfway down the track. Bones, Bronze, Stinger, and Volks race next. I am very worried about lane 3 with Stinger in this one. We've been through 2 competitions, and both times he has had a crazy wreck. I hope one of these days he's going to be able to finish one, but I don't know how much more we can do. And it's a very even start. Stinger pulling ahead. He bounces big, but he's still on track and on his tires. Bones ahead of Bronze, clips the side a little bit, but Bronze will be unable to catch him. Stinger finishes the race in third. Volks limps across the line. And I feel like a proud father right now. Stinger, though he did get yet another big bounce coming through the transition, he kept it straight on his tires and was able to finish the race. Well done to him. It's Bones moving on to the next round. Rescue, M, 9 and Jordan race next. And it's a very even start. Maybe 9 a little bit ahead, wobbling, bouncing. Looks like Jordan drives to the lead ahead of 9 and beats him across the line. Looked like 9 maybe had a slight advantage. 9 looked to get a little sideways before getting on the transition, and that gave enough room for Jordan to drive straight past. Oldster, Impreza, finish, and Bullet race next. It's a pretty even start, maybe Bullet a little bit ahead. Impreza leading through the transition, wobbles a little bit, so does Oldster, and Impreza pulls ahead of the pack to grab the victory. Impreza pulls off the win, finish, comes home in second. Impreza, was very competitive back in 2020 when the sister track was used. Maybe he can get back to that competitive ways again. Ford, 13, Total, and Outlander race next. If I remember correctly, Outlander's been a little iffy on this track. He's kind of been tipping recently. So let's see if he can keep it clean in this one. And it'll very even start. Maybe Outlander a little ahead, wobbles up on the side of the track. Is Total as Ford pulls ahead of 13 to grab the win. Total will get back onto the track, but it is too little, too late, as he will stall out before the finish line. Oldster bounced through the transition, kept it clean. It was Total getting off the track, with Ford getting the win. Flatbed, Patriot, Silver, and Pattern race next. It is a very even start. Flatbed maybe pulling ahead. It's a big bounce. Patriot's upside down on his roof, and Silver's off the track. Pattern will grab the win. Flatbed will take second after clipping the side, and Patriot and Silver will DNF. Man, that might be the first time we have seen a NASCAR flip this season. That is very rare. For Patriot's sake, I hope that was just a fluke. A great run there for Flatbed coming home in second, but it's Pattern with the win. Luke, 37, DFD, and Sierra are up next. 37 in lane number 2 is the first New Yorker of this competition. Be careful for him sitting in lane number 2. It was one of the middle lanes he had a wreck in the first competition, so look out there for him. And look out for Sierra in lane 4 as well. She's been pretty fast this entire season, just has been unable to get the wins due to unfortunate circumstances. And it's DFD way ahead of the pack, but he bounces big on the side of the track in front of Sierra. Luke's got the lead, but he's wobbling, so 37 will steal the win. It looks like maybe 37 goes over at the finish line. DFD and Sierra will not make it to the finish line, and Sierra's bad luck will continue. And look at this! Sierra has knocked DFD onto his roof. She is furious with him right now. Now back onto his tires is DFD, but they are very close at each other's grills. Very frustrated with one another. Sierra, at least the second time, maybe the third, she has been taken out in a competition. And we had to get someone in the between them. They were so mad with each other. They are so mad with each other. Taking a look at the finishing results, we have to put someone between them for the finishing results. That is how much we need to separate them. How furious Sierra is, ending up in last, DNFing. 37, a New Yorker, gets the win. 68, Christopher, Plasma, and Nighttime race next. And it's another even start, maybe 68 ahead a little bit. A big bounce, and Christopher's on the side of the track. Into Plasma, it's a drag race to the line, and Nighttime will get the win. Unlike the last race, Christopher and Plasma will cross the line, though in third and fourth respectively. Plasma choosing not to flip him onto his roof. I guess he hasn't been robbed as many wins as Sierra has been. It's another NASCAR, though, in nighttime. Moving on to the next round. Ream, Skull, Netspend, and Bolt race next. I'm a little worried about Skull in lane number 2. Very similar to Stinger, Rover, and maybe one other competitor. He's got massive tires, has the possibility to flip going through the transition, so we'll just have to watch out for him, see if he can keep it clean. Netspend a little slow out of the start line. It's Ream through the transition first, but he flips onto his roof. Skull bounced as well, but was able to keep it straight. Bolt will grab the victory, and Ream will almost finish the race on his roof in third. That was incredible. Very reminiscent to Mustang's DNF from, I believe, 2 competitions ago, where he flipped in the lead and almost won the race while doing it. Unfortunately, will come home in last. Skull did get up onto his side a little bit, but was able to save it. Netspend, the slow start, was able to come home in second. Man, a lot of stuff happened in this race. Netspend able to come home in second. It's Bolt with the win. 35, Cruz, Rancher, and Mini. I want to point out, Cruz in lane number 2 has had some speed the whole season. Really just got wrecked out in round 1 of the January competition. Unfortunately, didn't race around the right competitors, didn't have the right speed in February. Maybe March. He's in the middle lane, so maybe March he can finally get it done. And Cruz a little sideways out of the start line, bouncing up a little on the side of the track, but he's driving to the front, and Cruz will grab a defining win. I mentioned him right before the competition, talked about him that entire race. Cruz finally gets the win, moves on to the next round. Busch, Bruiser, Throwback, and Fishy race next. I mentioned Cruz with the heartbreak. I mentioned Sierra with the heartbreak. But Fishy's heartbreak in lane number 4, Fishy's heartbreak has stretched back throughout his entire career. So maybe he too can get it done in this one. It's a pretty even start. Fishy now pulling ahead of the pack. A big bounce for Bruiser way in the air. And Fishy still leading. Bruiser challenging. But Fishy will grab the win. Finally, Fishy gets a victory. And that is our second heartbreak guy getting their win. If only Sierra could have gotten hers. Fishy finally moves on to the next round. Gibbs, One-Liner, Hendrick, and High Point race next. It's a very even start. The NASCAR's maybe edging ahead. A big wobble for all, and they're still 4 wide. Coming to the line, a battle between Gibbs and High Point, and Gibbs will come out on top. A very clean race. We've had quite a few wrecks the last few competitions. Last few races, excuse me. Finally, a clean one. 2 NASCARs battling for the win, and it's Gibbs who comes out on top. Tron, Interstate, Crystal, and Rover race next. I mentioned it earlier, but Rover in lane number 4 has been issued a flipping warning. Well, not yet, but he might if he flips in this one. Has wrecked nearly every single competition this season, so let's watch out for him. Lane 4, see if he can finally keep it clean. And it's Rover in the lead, holding it, and there he goes on the side of the track, now flipping into Crystal as Interstate pulls ahead of Tron to grab the win. And it's a wreck for Rover. Raise your hand if you saw that coming. You can be sure that I am raising mine. Rover will DNF. Interstate moves on to the next round. That is 2 JGR Interstate Batteries diecasts moving on to the next round. That won't be confusing in round 2 at all. Kyle, 10, Racer, and BP are up next. It's a very even start. Racer maybe ahead a little bit. Now Racer bounces way in the air, swapping lane to lane as Kyle gets the win. The rest of the competitors will come through And Racer DNFing. Man, it did not look like Racer wanted to DNF there. Certainly tried to save it, but was unfortunately unable to. DNFs as Kyle drives on to the next round. Mustang, Catapult, Tire Pros, and Country race next. Catapult lane number 2 is our next Heartbreak Queen, as she almost won her race in January and flipped in February. So let's see what March is. And so far, March equals the lead. Catapult leading in, bounces way in the air. Mustang flips as Catapult swerves to avoid. Catapult will get the win, and Mustang, just like Reem, will bounce off of his finish piece. That was massive there for Catapult. Almost went over. Just a little bit worse of a landing, and she was done. The race was over. And I guess Tire Pros would have gotten the win, but she was able to save it, and March equals the win. Rev, Copo, Taxi, and Trunkless race next. Taxi in lane number 3 is the second New Yorker to race in this competition. Got robbed of a win in the last competition, so let's see how things go in this one. It's a pretty even start. Taxi maybe ahead a little bit. A big bounce for Copo, a wobble on the side of the track, but it's Rev in front, but Taxi will steal the win as they cross the finish line. It looked like Rev might have been able to hold on, but with the wreck in his mind and Copo wobbling, Taxi hit the gas and scored the victory. Goldie, Skyline, Kurt, and Speeder race next. And it's a pretty even start. Maybe Speeder pulling ahead a little bit. A wobble through the finish line, but they're 4 wide. Skyline and Speeder will grab the victory. It looked like Skyline might have been able to hold on, but Speeder hit the gas and grabbed the win. Tootsies, Blackout, Kohler, and M3 race next. Our next Heartbreak King is M3 in lane 4. Was close to winning his round 1 race in January. Was close to winning his round 1 race in February. So let's see how close he is in March. It's a very even start. It looks like M3 might actually have the lead. A wobble though. They're all still on track. But it's gonna be Tootsies crossing the line in first. It looked like Tootsies had the lead well before they got to the finish line. That was not a good race there for M3. Had a great start, but just did not carry the speed through the transition. So it's a NASCAR 1-2 with Tootsies moving on to the next round. 55, 1, 28, and Railing race next. It's a pretty even start. 55 falling way behind. 28's back end way in the air, but he's still in front of 1. No one can challenge him as he crosses the line in first. It was a big bounce from 28 through the transition. Looked like no one got through the transition very well there. If they had, 28 would have had a lot bigger of a challenge. But there is no challenge, and he gets the win. Safari, Missile, Brandt, and Redliner race next. It's a pretty even start through the transition. Everyone bounces Brandt on the side of the track, and Missile just drives away from his competitors. The battle really for second place, and that goes to Redliner. That was Missile's first win of this season, driving on to round 2. His brother X-Train, younger brother, has moved on to the next round, I believe, once already, maybe twice. And here Missile is finally moving on, but it was kind of against easy competitors. No offense to anyone in this race, but they're not at the speed of Missile, so it'll be interesting to see if Missile can advance through the rounds. Tab, Lefty, Pennzoil, and Spikes race next. And it looks like Tab may be a little bit in the lead, but has 0 speed off the transition. Actually, she does, and she's still in the lead, but Spikes! No Pennzoil! Pennzoil will grab the win across the line. Man, I've been used to calling Tab having 0 speed off the transition. I just said that with barely even thinking. But she did. She carried all the speed off the transition, but the problem was she was barely able to keep it. Spikes and Pennzoil both get by her, and it's Pennzoil moving on to the next round. Rick, Rifle, Benz, and Nova race next. Benz in lane number 3 is the third New Yorker to race in this competition. It's a pretty even start. It looks like Nova ahead. A big bounce for Benz. A little wobble on the side of the track. But he's in the front, passes Nova, and passes Rifle before the finish line. And he's half a car length ahead, crossing. And so that is an easy victory for Benz. Huge win. We're 3 for 3 so far with the New Yorkers. So for those who don't, it will be huge to their points position relative to their teammates. Discount, Star, M&M's, and Daylight race next. Star in lane number 2 is the only non-NASCAR in this race. And it looks like Star might have a slight lead, but it's M&M's pulling ahead through the transition. Star wobbling big, cannot get him. The NASCAR's 3 wide as they cross the line, and M&M's will come out on top. It looks like Star had a chance, but then as soon as she got through the transition onto the straight, flat drag strip, she was wobbling, bouncing side to side, which then allowed the NASCARs to pull ahead, and since M&M's had the lead before and coming through the transition, it was too much ground to build up in too little time for everyone else. Smithfield, Flames, Confetti, and Ally race next. Just like Star in the last race, Flames in lane number 2 is the only non-NASCAR in this race, and it's pretty good so far. Flames a little bit in the lead, Confetti falling behind. It's a big wobble through the transition, and it's a drag race to the line with Smithfield getting the win ahead of Ally. Looked like Flames wasn't doing too bad, but coming through the transition the exact same way Shooter lost a chance at being in the Final Four in the last competition. He bounced off one wall, then hit the other wall, which lost him all of his momentum. Confetti did the same, so they fall to 3rd and 4th, with Smithfield getting the win. Blue, Base, Turbo, and White race next. And it's a pretty even start, a little wobble, and it's a big bounce. Blue upside down on his roof, and it's a drag race 3 wide across the line with Base grabbing the win. Blue ends up on his roof, and Base, who had some success on the sister track in this one in 2020, grabs a win, moves on to the next round. Mobile, 3, Dragon, and Pace race next. It's a pretty even start. Pace now pulling ahead. A big bounce for Dragon through the transition. Pace, though, still in the lead, though everyone's challenging as they cross the line. It's Pace with the win, leading nearly from start to finish, but it wasn't easy as they got to the finish. It's Pace moving on to the next round. There's 2 races to go in the first half of round 1 in the most important competition of the 2025 season. Race 30 contains dual fueler, Bleu, Rookie Vintage, and Splitter. And it's a very even start. Splitter eking ahead a little bit. A big bounce, and Bleu is on the side of the track in front of Dual Fueler. Splitter will grab the victory. Dual Fueler will give Bleu a nudge across the line. It didn't look like he got very close to her, though, so maybe he intentionally slowed down or shoved her ahead or something. But whatever it is, the 2020 champion, the victor on the sister track to this one, finally moves on to the next round. Final race in the first half of round 1, and it's full of rookies. Race 31 has Jacqueline, Hamlin, Beetle, and Mighty. And it's an even start. Jacqueline and Mighty leading the charge. Hamlin pops up on 2 wheels. Now friendly fire with his NASCAR competitor as Beetle gets the victory. Hamlin off the track into the side of Jacqueline. Looked like Jacqueline was relatively competitive in that one for once, but kind of got slowed down by Hamlin. Mighty comes home in third, so somehow Hamlin came home in second, but Beetle, who came so close to making it to round 2 in the last competition, actually does that in this one. And I mentioned it. That was the final race of the final race of the first half of round number 1, and here are your first 31 competitors. Moving on to the next round, I have no idea who would win out of this group. There's probably at least half of the final 4 might come from this group, but I have no clue who it could possibly be. That's like asking me to find a needle in a haystack. The last competition, it was pretty easy because the ones who I picked showed like clear signs of being way ahead. And this one, it is difficult. I think maybe just past precedent of who's typically fast. I guess either pace, base, or splitter. That's the 3 here in the corner. The black, the white, and the yellow car. I'd say maybe one of those 3, but I could be completely wrong. But that's it for the first half of round number 1. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss the second half of round number 1 coming out later this week. And until then, my name is Farkle8000, and we'll see you later.